Well, welcome to Medical Sales U, the podcast. I'm joined with someone today who's really making waves in the medical sales world, and he's building a great network, a thriving community. Kendy Elmore, he's the founder of The Lobby, and it's one of the largest networking platforms here. I looked it up online. There's chapters all around. He's a Clemson University grad. He's a former science teacher and coach, and then you kind of reinvented yourself, went into medical sales. Kendy, great to have you on the podcast.
Dave, great to be here. Appreciate you having me, and excited to share our story.
Well, I've been looking at what you've been doing. I started my program, Medical Sales U, the podcast, I think it was April of 2024. We had our first cohort of students last summer, our next in the fall. And I've been seeing some of your posts. I'm like, this guy's been crushing it. There's chapters all around. I'm like, we need to get our students involved with his network. And I just want to learn, maybe you can just tell us a little bit more, because we've, had some people, listening to this podcast or learning, then people in our program. And part of the reason is our program is virtually, because we talk, about kind of both the soft skills, but having an understanding. Our specialty with our niche is a little bit more in the oncology space, although we have people getting into device, but we also have, people getting into genetic testing, especially pharmaceutical sales and cancer. But they need to show up in person and network. And you have chapters, you're online, but you also have in-person chapters. Tell us a little bit more about The Lobby.
Yeah, Dave, thank you. Networking is such a big piece of this industry, whether you're trying to get in, you're an established rep, or, a manager looking to hire, right? It's all about your network, who you know. As a rep myself, I saw that throughout those different stages of my career. When I was trying to get in the industry, I was trying to build connections. Once I got in, finding synergy with other reps and looking at other opportunities, learning about other opportunities within the space. As you said, there's so many different areas where you can go into medical sales as a rep and different companies. And so creating a space really is our goal. And you really hit the nail on the head when you said building a community, right? For the longest time, the medical sales industry, when I say medical, I mean all healthcare sales, whether it's pharma, dental, diagnostics, device, right? Everybody in that healthcare sales umbrella is really who The Lobby is for. But traditionally, our industry has been very kind of siloed, right? There hasn't been a community for the medical sales reps. There hasn't been any sort of an association or a space where reps can come together and just be reps, right? Everybody's kind of siloed by their specialty or by their company. And so in 2022, we started hosting network events in Charleston, South Carolina. We had like 24 people show up to that first event, booked a venue, brought in a speaker. Everybody loved it. We continued to host events in Charleston. And by the end of that year, we had like 70 people at our final event, and thought, wow, this is really something cool we're going to do here in Charleston. What I didn't see coming was the number of reps that reached out to other cities and said, hey, I see what you're doing in Charleston. I've always wanted that in Atlanta, New York, San Francisco, Dallas, right? How do we get that community that you're building in Charleston? How do we do the same thing in this city? And so we quickly built out a chapter leader kind of program where we empower reps in their cities to take on these leadership roles and build out their communities and build a space and host events in the different cities all across the country. I think we're approaching 40 cities now in the U.S. And so it's just been incredible to see the growth over the last 2 years as far as that networking and the events go. Our events really are built for someone in the industry, right? So reps that are in it, that are looking to expand their network. We always have educational speakers come in, whether it's sales training or maybe a CEO of a hospital or a materials manager, somebody that can provide value to a room full of reps, but always leaving that door open. You'll see in our posting that says anyone interested in learning more about the industry, right? So you mentioned students in your course, college students that come and say, hey, I want to get into medical sales when I graduate. What do I need to be doing now to set myself up for success? So our events turn into this like incredible kind of ethos of aspiring reps, current reps, recruiters, managers, marketing professionals, right? Anybody in that healthcare space, and but on the local level, kind of building that community. And it's just been incredible to see all over the country now.
That is incredible. And the best way for, I looked you up on LinkedIn. You have quite, you get a good following there. You have chapters all around. What are some of the best ways for our students, but also people that are kind of exploring, listening to this podcast, for them to get in touch, join the lobby, find out their local chapter?
Yeah, great question, Dave. As this thing grew, right, over the last couple of years, as we started to expand, and I found myself in the middle of a lot of conversations, right? Reps started to reach out to me for a number of reasons, right? Whether it was help with a resume, maybe it was a job, maybe it was sales training. Hey, who do I go to for sales training, right? And then we also started having companies and coaching programs, different individuals reaching out to us and saying, hey, we're trying to tap into that network. We're trying to find these people. And what we really learned is LinkedIn is incredible, right? It's the gold standard for professional networking. But if you look at the makeup of LinkedIn now, there's over 1 billion users on it, right? The medical sales industry, when you look at the math, makes up like 0.01% of LinkedIn. And so what we saw was the need for the medical sales industry not only to have their own spaces and events to network, but also our own platform. And so we spent the last year building and launching basically LinkedIn, but just for medical sales. So when you sign into the lobby platform, you're going to have about 600 medical sales companies, a daily average of 400,000 to 600,000 medical sales jobs. All of our events are on there in the registration, so you can tap into your local community, see exactly what events are coming up. You can build a medical sales profile on there. There's a live feed where you can engage with other reps. You can connect with other reps in other cities or in your city. And so it's really just a space where all things medical sales are happening. And it's a space where you can find and tap into all of those resources in one place. So going to our website, thelobbynetwork.com, you'll find out more information there. You'll see a link to register. It is a free platform. And just like LinkedIn, you set up an account, you create a profile, and you tap right into the community.
That's fantastic. And I think it's just going to be great. I mean, even if our students are in my program or someone else's program, it's always just good to expand your options as far as one, showing up meeting in person, but also, as you're right, if there's another way to narrow your focus. I remember years ago when people told me there was a platform for medical sales, and I got onto it, but it seemed really dated. It was really hard to use and so forth like that. So I think the fact that you're kind of tapping into that and this niche to, let's narrow the focus to medical sales jobs with a platform, I think that is absolutely fantastic. And so just out of curiosity, maybe you could kind of go way back into, because we're helping people break in. I find it interesting. I look at your biography. You were a teacher and a coach. I was too. I taught for a couple of years. I coached basketball. And I taught it actually at a private school. We were getting paid less than public school teachers. But into my 30s, I better do something else to make money. And I'm like, if I want to get married someday, have a family, I better start figuring this out. And I was doing a lot of good things, and I was, writing some books, and some of those actually did reasonably well. I would have a great month, maybe some months make 30,000. And then the next month off my royalties, I would make like, $412, right? So it was like an ups and downs. But I find it curious anytime I meet someone like yourself who is a teacher and a coach, and you make this transition. I'm just curious to hear a little bit more about your story. What was it that made you decide, I want to do something else?
Yeah. Similar to you, like I loved what I did, right? Having a direct impact in someone's life as a teacher and a coach, having played sports and been successful on my own, was one thing, but empowering and coaching someone and watching them succeed is one of the greatest things I think you can do as an individual. And I loved it. But to your point, you're an Excel spreadsheet, right? You kind of go down to years experience over a degree, and it's like, that's your number for the year, no matter what you do. You could be the best at it, you could be the worst at it, but that's what you're going to make. And so I knew my gears turned a little bit differently. I wanted to impact people. I wanted to have a direct, kind of way of helping others, but an opportunity to prove that I could work harder and earn more. And I really found that in medical sales, right? Where you knew you were impacting patients' lives, but I knew I could work hard and earn more and have that opportunity. And so that was really what drove me to that industry. Initially,
What did you coach? What did you coach back in the day?
Baseball and football.
Wow. Did you play in college?
I did not.
Okay.
I played all through high school, and then hung it up and went.
Where did you go to high school? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in South Carolina in Sumter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's good.
And so, as I kind of hit, a certain point in my career in medical sales, I was like, kind of looking for that next step. And I think as a sales rep, you are an entrepreneur by nature, right? And you're used to building and you're kind of saw that need in our industry for building a community, and knew it would also get me back to my roots of really having a direct impact on patients' lives. So I love attending events. I love working with reps, and coaches and different people that are in the space to have that direct impact in their lives.
Wow. So what was your first job? What was the first thing you sold?
I was an associate sales rep for a company called MindRay, and we sold anesthesia machines and patient monitors.
Wow.
Covered all of North Carolina, South Carolina, and did that for a year before getting promoted to a territory manager in Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay. Wow. So you had to move.
Yeah, I did. I did.
Wow. And where was it in your career that you decided to start the lobby?
It was really, I'd say go back to 21, right? Because we
Okay.
hosted our first event in February of 2022. And I'd say 21 was really when I sat down, and really looked at my life and what did I wanted the next 5, 10, 15 years to look like, right? On a personal level. And also what did I want to do to give back? I started thinking about big ideas, big terms, legacy, meaning, purpose. And kind of went down my own little journey of kind of figuring out what that looked like and what I wanted to do with my life and how I wanted to impact, the world. And really what I looked at and kind of came to the realization is, I have an opportunity here to impact a lot of lives in the medical sales space. It's what I knew. And also I saw an opportunity there that there was something that was really missing and something we could build.
Wow, I like that. Why do you think, when I remember years ago, I was in the nonprofit sector and I was, I was doing ministry stuff. I was going like mission trips. I was, a teacher before that, private school, but I knew about medical sales. I mean, I kind of thought about it, but it seemed really hard back in the
Yeah.
day to break in. If you ever met a rep back in the day, your stereotypical alpha, surgical rep, it's just like, I got it really kind of like competitive in the sense of like, I figured it out. Very few can do this, blah, 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 blah. But it seems like now there's maybe a shift taking place where more people are wanting to give back, wanting to coach, wanting to help others. And, but there's still so many people out there who don't know how to network.
Yeah.
They don't know how to use LinkedIn. They don't know how to sell themselves in an interview or take their story or transferable skill sets into, apply it to this position. What are you finding are the biggest challenges with reps today? And that whole shift about, is it becoming easier now with programs like yours and others to now network because of this? Or is it still like extraordinarily hard?
Yeah, I think it's still a challenge. There's just more tools, right? I think, and for someone that's trying to make that transition, the more tools you have, the more coaching you have, the more opportunities you have to get in front of someone at a networking event. I don't know that we're making it easier, but we're giving people more opportunities, right? So someone who is enrolled in a program like yours and is getting that coaching and that mentorship, who has opportunities to come in and connect in person, I think we're certainly providing them with more opportunities, but you still got to put the work in. And so I don't know that it's necessarily easier. I think there's just a lot more guidance and mentors out there that are helping individuals in this space.
So tell us about one of your events, one of your local chapters. Do you
Yeah.
have several speakers? Walk us through that evening. What does it look like?
Yeah, our traditional kind of layout is happy hour style events, right? Usually 5 to 7 afternoons. We kind of keep it during the week. We try to host quarterly events in each of our cities that we're live in. And we always want them to be educational events. So it's not just an opportunity to kind of come in and network and meet with people, although that is a big piece of it. But there's always some value you're going to get, right? Whether it's from a manager who's been in the industry for a long time or a rep that's been in the industry. It could be a materials manager at a hospital, kind of sharing their side of the fence on what's going on in the industry, or even a physician talking about the importance of sales reps and how to show up well, things to do, things not to do, surgery center administrators, right? So the idea is that no matter where you are in your career, early, veteran, pharmaceutical, medical, you're going to get some value there and get better as a sales rep. And really, that's a big foundation behind what we do, not only building that community to connect, but also empowering sales reps to learn and get better at what they do.
As you think about some of the speakers that you've had come and share, some of the topics, some that really got a good response. Who are some of the ones that kind of, or topics or speakers that have really stood out that this is fascinating? These are some great takeaways, and in the network, the people that showed up really were inspired.
Yeah. I mean, we've had so many incredible speakers. I think we just, hit the 150 event mark. So, it's tough to pick one, but some of my favorites have always been the physicians, actually. When they'll kind of sit down with a room full of reps, which is, usually a difficult room, because a room, the reps are typically trying to sell the physicians, but it's nice when they'll take the time and say, hey guys, this is what's going on in our world, right? This is the challenges. When you come to us with a new product that you want to get approved and you want to sell to us, that's great, but here's what we have to go through, right? Here's the reason they're pushing back on pricing. Here's the reason, for a lot of things that we're up against as a physician. So I think anytime a rep can get a peek behind the curtain, whether it's a physician, a hospital administrator, surgery center administrator, to understand their world and those challenges, it makes the rep that much better to kind of understand and empathize with what's going on as they are trying to sell their products.
Wow. Do you think the industry has changed in the last, I mean, I know we all had challenges with access during COVID,
Yeah.
but as far as, contracting and pricing, and then there's often, these acquisitions of these smaller accounts
Yeah.
all across America. When you hear these doctors from the perspective of the physician, they're limited sometimes in their decision-making process.
Yeah.
What do you find is their biggest challenge today in 2025 that maybe wasn't true when you first got started in this industry?
I mean, I think, every account's going to be different, right? So it's tough to say a blanket statement. Every physician's dealing with the same challenge, but what you are seeing is more and more hospitals making decisions for physicians on products, right? They're signing national agreements, or the hospital groups are signing national agreements at the corporate level, and they're rolling it out to all 100 hospitals and saying, hey, this is what we use for joint replacements now, right? Or this is what we use for trauma or beds. And so I think you're seeing more and more of those decisions being made at that level, and the power is kind of slowly starting to slip away from the physician and move more towards the hospital in some scenarios. You're also seeing a big move into the outpatient surgery center. Some of those are still physician owned, so they have a little bit more power and say so in their products and equipment being used there. So still a space where they have a big voice.
Well, that's good. Looking back when you were a young rep, do you remember your first big win when you went over an account? Can you look back at some early victories that you had and what you had to do to get there? Because, we're helping people we're doing two things. Is that we've helped people break in to the very, first time. We have guys, from tech sales, clinical experience. We have a firefighter who just joined our program. And then we have people that are wanting to get more specialized into a new niche. And a lot of those are more in cancer. But it's hard, the first year. You're learning so much. Can you look back in your journey, your career, when you first got started? What was a big win that took place early on?
Yeah, so I started in the capital world. So it's what they call whale hunting. So you're hunting big deals as opposed to surgical sales, where you're kind of chipping away at your quota every day with cases. The capital world, you're hunting big deals, right? So you maybe switch out an entire hospital's patient monitors, or a new hospital system being built. And so, yeah, there was certainly some wins there early on. And I still remember, some of those first checks, right? As you said, going from the education world into the sales world. Like, hey, I was used to getting paid this an entire year. Now I just got that in a single check. And so some of those moments were pretty powerful and certainly memorable as I look back at it. I think one of the biggest things I learned through that process as an early rep and kind of moving more into a senior rep was the ability to, because like you said, you learn so much early on, but I think it's the ability to ask good questions makes a good sales rep, right? The more curious you can be and the better you can get at asking questions, instead of showing up and just kind of spewing your product knowledge all over a customer, but better understanding their needs and what's going on in their world makes you more of a consultant for them, and also helps you really find the right product and the right solution for them.
I like that. Asking better questions, finding solutions, understanding the needs of the physician
Yeah.
and the account. So you meet people, you leave it open. You're primarily for those already in the industry, in the lobby, but you keep it open for those college
Yeah.
students, for those that are seeking to break in. From your perspective, if you've talked to, say, a young person, let's say they're 24, 25 years old, they've worked in a different industry and they're struggling to break in, and they've showed up to one of your events and they've gotten denied. They've gotten to maybe to the second round, third round. They just cannot break in. They don't have experience. What advice do you give to that person who's just starting out and they keep getting those no's? From your perspective, what would you encourage them, and what are some steps that you would encourage them to take?
Yeah, listen, I mean, it took me a year and a half to make that transition. So I wish, I had a stack of rejection letters, but I wouldn't even get rejection letters, right? I wouldn't even get a response from a lot of the companies and positions I applied to. I think one thing I would encourage people is do your research and understand the right roles you should be applying to, right? Look for the associate rep roles, look for the on-site specialist roles, look for the clinical specialist roles if you got a clinical background, right? So educating yourself on the right role, so you're not just kind of spinning your wheels and throwing stuff against the wall hoping it sticks, and get a little bit more targeted with your approach. I think also making sure your resume is updated and looks and is constructed in the right way for this industry, right? I see a lot of bad resumes come through. So I think that's, your first impression with someone is your resume. So making sure that's up to date. Your LinkedIn profile, a lot of people use LinkedIn now to look up candidates. So making sure that's professional and buttoned up in all the right ways. And then working with a coach, right? Working with some mentor, somebody that can guide you through that process. The interview process is tedious. There's certainly strategy to it, and certainly things that you have to do along the way, and things you have to do to stand out from your competition. So if you are getting into that process, making sure you're working with someone, coach, mentor, recruiter, someone who can guide you through that process and really coach you through those steps of the interviews.
You're helping a lot of people. You're building connections all across America. Kendy Elmore is our guest. Kendy, tell us a little bit, what is the legacy that you hope the lobby leaves behind? You're just getting started, and I know you're a visionary, but what do you hope to leave behind in the medical sales world?
Yeah, great question. We certainly have a 1, 3, 5, 10-year plan of kind of what we want this thing to look like and turn into. But really, we want it to be a space where reps go to connect, right? At the foundation is building a more connected industry. We want to make it so that there's resources available to a rep no matter what you need, right? Whether it's help with a resume, job search, sales training, sales development. We hope to grow into national conferences and create a space where reps can really go to conferences, meet other reps, learn about new technologies coming out, new companies that are coming down the pipeline. What are great spaces to kind of transition into? But really just building a community for the medical sales industry and hoping to grow that number. My personal goal is to help 100,000 individuals in this space. So that's kind of where I'm focusing and hoping we get to.
Those big goals.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to get to my first 1,000. So that's that's great.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah. And, we've been helping people. 2 of our last 3 have gotten jobs over $200,000, and one, at 185K. So we're helping change lives. I think it was about $68,000 increase we're averaging from what they're previously making. So that's a big difference today.
That's incredible.
And there's an excitement too. We're, these are in the kind of the precision medicine, oncology, specialty pharmaceutical, and cancer. And it's not for everybody, but it's one path that we teach. For some people, I think being in the operating room is best. They're in it. They like the excitement. For others, it's the capital equipment. It's what you're doing. It's these really big deals. And you're going after. And so there's different paths that people can take. But I will say it again, for our students who are in our program and those wanting to jump in, don't just rely on LinkedIn. You got to show up to different events. And one of the events that they should show up to in cities all across America is the lobby. And through that, you know what? You might meet some other people.
Yeah.
If, in my space, like for example, there's nurses that want to break in, cancer nurses. They have a very difficult time breaking into this industry. If you're a pharmaceutical cancer rep in oncology, your base salary is going to be anywhere from 165 to 215. That's just your base before your commission. Your commissions aren't going to be as high as device, but you can still make, your average rep will make over 200. So there's cancer nurses who want to break in. One great place for them to break in is the Oncology Nurses Society. Right?
Yeah.
Even right now, just start networking with other and guess what? You're going to meet pharmaceutical reps with all the companies that sell these as well. Just start networking, meeting people. But if you want to get in sales, whether it's pharmaceutical or device, I tell my students, check out the lobby. Check it out. Follow Kendy. Kendy, tell us a little bit about your personal life and what you're doing when you're not helping people build and network their career in medical sales.
Well, I got to say, this does take up a lot of time. We're still very much a startup company, which is, does require a lot of time and energy. So I'm usually working, 6-7 days a week. But other than that, based here in Austin, Texas, love traveling, exploring, skiing, doing outdoor things, and trying to step away when I can and take a break from the work.
How long have you lived in Austin for?
It's newer. Yeah. It's made the transition from Charleston to Austin.
Okay. Very cool. I used to live in Dallas. So I left Dallas, moved to Columbus, Ohio. And, Austin's fun. It's a great place to visit and like the hill country and floating down the river and getting some good food and a little local music.
Exactly.
So it's great. So my brother lives in Waco. He's a professor at Baylor. So nice. I love Texas. It's a great state. Well, Kendy, thank you so much for joining the podcast. It's just an honor. Yeah. I think it's phenomenal what you're doing. You're getting after it. You're growing it. You're doing it. So much respect to you. And I look forward to meeting you in person someday.
Yeah, likewise, Dave. Thanks for everything you do for our industry, all the people that you're helping. Thanks for having me and helping spread our message. Would love to have your students and your followers, part of the lobby. You can sign up on our website, thelobbynetwork.com, and look forward to meeting you in person.
Sounds great. Thanks, Kendy.
All right. Thanks, Dave.